Hello and welcome back to another part of Design Your Own Level tutorial. In this video what we'll be doing is we will be creating a floor piece. Now you might say that we already have a floor and we only need to apply texture to it. Well, that is actually true. We do have a floor. We want something with a little bit more detail like the floors inside of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Now you can see that this is fairly basic. It just looks like triangular tiles that they created. It doesn't seem like it's got a lot of geometry in it, with a basic reflective material on it. And we've already created a material like this when we created our coffee table. So it will essentially be that material just repasted all over our triangles. That's actually how easy it is. The only additional thing that we might need to create is this seems like support parts that they put up on every single where the corners essentially meet. And now there's also a few other things that we might need to consider. One of those things being the size of the tiles, and also are we going to create a whole bunch of them, like 6 of them together and then import it into Unreal, or are we going to create them individually? For this part, I think creating them individually will be the easiest, because then we can just tile them and stack them around. As you can even see here it meets up with the wall and it just kind of like goes through the wall. So without saying anything further, let's just get started. Alright, so let's just jump over to Blender, and with the view being centered, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to add a plane mesh, and then essentially what you want to do is we're going to triangulate it by hitting Control T, and then you're going to delete one of those sides. And there, well, essentially that's our corner already done. Then we're going to select all, just going into a side view. I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to extrude it about halfway through this block. There we go. And let's just make sure that the normals are on the outside, so we're going to recalculate the outside. And then what we want to do is just bring up our reference walls that we created. I think I hid them, so let's just double check. Sorry. There we go. Alright, so they are hidden. And that actually looks big enough. The sizes and everything we can adjust inside of Unreal Engine itself. So I nearly said Mirror's Edge. So we're getting kind of to the point where it's starting to look like Mirror's Edge. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it so that it is center, its corner is center with the world, so that that's going to be our pivot point. And then we actually just need to give it UVs. So I'm just going to split off this area, go into my UV image editor. I'm going to create a new image for it. We don't need any high resolution. I'm just going to call this floor panel. Remember, the one thing that you always need to remember is that if you set a resolution for your UV map, that's not necessarily going to be the resolution that you are going to be limited to. So if I unwrap on 512 by 512 UVs, I can still use a 4096 by 4096 texture. It's just sometimes better. Well, the reason I'm doing it here is just so that each one has its own texture, and then I can just see it a little bit better. Okay, so from here I'm just going to hit U to unwrap. Okay, it's not really giving me good UV, so I'm going to do the Smart UV project. Alright, so these two are the same size. That looks perfect. In all honesty, we probably don't need the bottom face, because there is absolutely no detail that will be seen at the bottom whatsoever. And the way we're going to stack this up, we're probably never going to use the bottom piece. But just sometimes it's just better to create it just in case. Alright. So just another thing I want to do. I'm just going to go into its normal view. Now I need to make 100% sure that this is centered with the world. Sorry, I'm just going to join these up again. Alright, and there we go. So that's done. we're done with the tile itself. So now I'm just going to add a cube. I'm going to scale it down and bring it all the way over here for reference. Alright, essentially what we're going to do is we want to create those strange little panels that they had underneath the floor panels themselves. The only way for us to really be able to see what that looks like would be to duplicate our mesh and then scale it on the negative y-axis by 1. And then grab it, and then we're going to space it apart like a small grid unit. And I'm just going to do this again. Scale it on the x-axis by -1. There we go. And then Shift D. Rotate. Sorry, rotate by -45. And that might need to be scaled up. Actually, shouldn't have rotated by that. I should rotate it by... okay. Well, I'm kind of looking for something to go along the lines of that. So I'm just going to... There we go. So the only reason why I'm doing this is I kind of want to get an idea of how the corners meet up so that I can make this look a little bit better. So I'm going to go into wireframe mode, scale this down, select it, move it all the way up there. And I'm going to do something like this. Alright, I might need to snap this to grid because I want it to be one full unit. So I'm going to snap that to grid. And what's that face over there? That's a very weird vertex, just like in the middle of nowhere. Okay. And then I'm just going to hit Control R. And then this one, I just want to move down. I'm going to hit E to extrude. E to extrude again. There you go. E to extrude. Alright, then this last one, I'm going to extrude all the way to there. And then I'm just going to select all of it and then, yeah, remove doubles. And you should see it remove 4 vertices. Okay, so now I believe it is ready. And I'm just going to scale it down. And there we go. So it doesn't need to be anything special. You could actually just move this inward a little bit more, so it's something like that. So it all really depends on what you want to do with this. This is not really something very interesting, so yeah, I'm just going to delete all of these. And then I'm going to move this to the center of the world as well. I'm just going to move it on the opposite side. And we forgot to give this a name, so I'm just going to call this floor tile. And then this one I'm going to call floor connector. There we go. And we just want to unwrap its UVs as well. So I'm just going to split the area, go to the UV image editor, create a new image, call it floor connector. Okay, and I'm going to use the smart UV project for this one because this one just has like crazy sides and everything. So alright, so then these two should be done. So now I'm just going to export them to Unreal Engine 4. So I'm going to select my triangle tile. I'm going to hit File, Export, FBX. The main selected objects, geometries, edge detect, and disable your leaf bone. I'm going to call it floor tile, and maybe give it triangle because you might later on create squares or anything like that. So if you're going to call it floor tile, name might be taken. So try to keep to some naming convention. And then this one over here. File, export, same settings should still be enabled. and floor connector. There we go. I'm going to jump over to Unreal, go to my models tab, click import, and just go back to there, and I'm looking for the floor connector and the floor triangle. So there we go. Click import and import. Okay, alright, for some reason I don't want to select the first time. Okay, so now we want to give it a material, and as I said, we already have a material that we can use for that, and that was the table. I recently renamed it to table generic white material, so we can select that, click save, and then on the other model, the connector piece, I think we're going to use just the black material. Even though we want something more of a matte type, we're just going to use this one for now, and we'll set up the materials later on. I'm going to click save, this one click save, close them out, and well, let's start and bring our floor in. And there we go. Well, actually, if we hit play, we'll just see what it looks like. See, there is one reason it's giving like strange reflections. I want to go back into Blender, and I actually just want to see, is this smooth shaded or is this flat shaded? So I just want to go over to the shading option, or well, we can go into the general shading options in object mode and click flat. It's actually flat shaded, so it should actually be correct. I think the reason why it's doing that might be related to us not using enough triangles in it, or build lighting. So I'm just going to build lighting, see if it works a little bit better. Alright, the lighting build is done, and as you can see, okay, all that texture warping that we saw before is now gone. So that seems to have been the problem. So we don't need to stress about anything. So now it's just about stacking these up. So let's get to doing that. Alright, so we'll start by the door area. And I'm going to rotate this by about, I need to rotate by about 45 degrees. So I'm just going to set its rotation in the widget over here and do it by 45. Here we go, and then I'm just going to move it to the door over there. And as far as I can recall, inside of the video itself, it wasn't all the way connected to the door or even all the way connected to this part. It left like a little gap in between. Alright, so this one, and then I'm going to hit Alt and then just move it out. And then again, Alt and move it out. And then just try and keep the spacing fairly similar. Even though I don't believe that they did the spacing similar inside of Mirror's Edge. There's many gaps in it that you can see now. Okay, well actually we went a bit far because that section does not need this. And then I'm just going to select all of them. I'm going to drag them off, and then what I want to do is essentially I want to flip them all the way around. So rotate by 0. Alright, rotate by -45. No. Okay, now I'm starting to get a little bit confused with my direction. I essentially just needed to flip all the way, so I think it's going to be 225. There we go. Alright, sorry, I was just messing with my own mind there. And then you could do something like this, and then just line them up. And then we can, from here, we can copy, and then rotate again by 225, bring it in. Alright, the floor is getting kind of in my way, so I'm just going to select the floor and just hide it. And then I can see a little bit better. Okay, And then what we're going to do is we're just going to like line these up the way that we want them to. So drag this one off, set it to 45 degrees. There we go. And then kind of line them up. We might need to bring the gaps a little bit closer, but for now that seems okay. I'm going to select these two, copy them, move them off. Then just make sure they line up. There we go. And then do the same a couple of times. There we go. Well, let's actually go into the top view. You might be able to see a little bit better how they line up. You'll see there's like a slight little gap in between them where we might need to change our grid spacing to something smaller. So we can just get like the spacing right. You probably don't need to. It doesn't look all that bad. So this will probably just be for just purely cosmetic reasons. This one lined up perfectly. I think the main reason why it didn't line up was more to do with the fact that the original ones we placed down weren't lining up properly. So there we go. Oh, come on. There we go. And then the last one, actually I'm just going to grab one of these and then rotate it, make sure it's set to 90 degrees. No. 135. There we go. Alright, so every time we rotate, we just rotate by 45 degrees until we get the proper look that we want. So I'm going to do it like this. And then the same with the one here at the bottom. Rotate, oh sorry, just duplicate it all first. And then set that to 0, negative 45. There we go. Alright, so now if we actually hit play, well, let's go into perspective view first. And we can see if we hit play that that's what those look like. We might just have to rebuild lighting to get them to reflect properly, but they're actually starting to come together quite nicely. So what you can do now is you can actually select all of them and then just duplicate them across the floor as much as what you needed. We might need to move them one unit down, because if we go into the side view, let's go into this right view here, you'll see that it's actually above the floor at the current moment, and we kind of need it to be the floor. So we kind of stacked everything up so that it meets up with the floor over here, and we didn't stack it up so it meets up with our tiles that we are starting to lay down. So what we can do is we can just move our floor actually down. Let's just select something here. Let me just click stop. I was still simulating over there. I just need to find the actor that I was hiding. There we go. So just so you know that whenever you hide an actor, you can unhide it from here. And if we select this, we can just move it like down that little bit, and then we can start moving the floor down one unit. But we're going to leave that for later on. Right now we're only putting the floor down to actually get a sense of what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to leave the floor area, or the way that you want to stack it, all up to you, even if you want to try and use different shapes. Let me just build lighting again to make sure that it is actually the lighting problem that's causing those that distortion. Alright, yes, once indeed it is that. So set my mind at ease that it is indeed build lighting that's causing that distortion. So what we are going to do further is we want to stack these units up as well, so that they kind of like meet underneath the floor. So let's just see what that will look like if we kind of like stack it up. Let's go into top view first and see what that looks like. It doesn't need to be perfect. And let's go into the left view. Let's see. So actually I believe that the pivot point for this one is like right underneath, because if we go over to Blender, remember how we set it up? That yes, it moves on the side, but its pivot point is actually like on that corner, where this one's on that corner. So whenever you place it, it will place exactly the unit below the floor, which is good. That is how we want it. But later on, if you're going to possibly use this for something else, which I don't know, you might want to use it for something else, having it on a different pivot point might be a little bit better. So let me actually move this down the floor area completely. There we go. And then go into perspective mode and see what that looks like. Alright, it looks a little bit big. I wasn't too sure how I wanted to treat this, so the reflection also doesn't really help it. You can make this a little bit smaller. It all really depends, once again, what you want it to look like. But it does actually look like somewhat of a support area for the floor itself. So if you're going to stack these all around the world, then it might actually look a little different. Just drag these out so that we have... Alright, but now there's one thing that might cause a slight bit of a headache. I'm just going to hide all of these. And that would obviously be, now you have to select all of these units individually if you want to duplicate them and move them across the world. And each one of them will essentially be like a draw call. So at the end of our level, we're going to have hundreds upon hundreds of draw calls, and most of that will just be because of the floor. Now, there's two ways to go about this. First way would be to go into Blender itself and then to do the floor duplicate inside of Blender by hitting Shift D and then moving the floors around and then stacking and lining them up as if it's all part of one singular model. That might cause issues later on if you want to have proper light maps, and the larger your items, the more complex the light map will be, and it might not, the shadows might not look right. The other way is, I actually think, let me just see if I can find it. Alright, so I believe it's on the window, then developer tools, and there we go, merge actors. So what we can do is, let's quickly actually, here in our search in our world outliner, we'll just type in floor, and I'm going to select the top piece, and then go all the way to the bottom, hold shift and select all of them. And then I'm going to go window, and developer tools, and merge actors. And then it will ask you, you can have a few options that you can set over here, and then you can just click merge actors, and it will ask you where you want to save it, so we're just going to save it there. And now if you select it, or now we can bring it into the world, you'll see that all these are still like their own individual one, but this one has become our one merged actor. So this will essentially be one draw call on its own, where these ones, I don't even know how many units we selected. I think it's, there we go, 26 different draw calls, where this will be one. So that's a way for you to just repeat this process. And will be a lot easier, because now we can just like position this over here, and then just hold Alt and drag off the copies that we require. And it's not going to meet up all the way with the wall, so that's fine. Actually, we should actually delete all of these now and then just use our standard one. So let me just go here. I'm just going to delete all of them. Going to select this one. Alright, and now I'm just going to select all of them and maybe move it up just slightly so that it's the same distance from that wall as this from that one. And then once again, I'm going to click Build Lighting. Alright, and that's done. I'm just going to close that off. Then I'm going to click Play. And there we go. There's our floor. I'm just going to try not select anything. Let's do Play and selected viewport. There we go. Alright, so you can see our floor is stacked up. Everything is starting to take shape. But now also you can see that this floor, even though it looks very good inside of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, let me just bring up a video again. Our one is actually slightly smaller. We could have made it a little bit wider and everything, but we'll sort that out a little bit later. The one thing that they have that breaks kind of this repetition is they have a little bit more objects stacked around the world, and they have these carpets, or this isn't actually, it's not actually carpets, that just looks like a piece of material that's thrown across the floor. So what we're going to do in the next video is actually just set up our, let me just close this off. We're actually going to set up one or two carpets or just material or cloth or anything that we can throw across the floor, so that we kind of like break this repetition of the floor just repeating on many areas, and just kind of like break it from your view so that it doesn't seem, well, as you can see, obviously this just seems like a tileable area on its own, so it just looks weird. Alright, so with that said, that brings us to the end of this part of the tutorial. So remember that we did merge an actor together, so you can see that multiple actors did become merged together, and this, as far as I know, is a fairly new function to Unreal Engine 4. The first time I saw it was, I think, on Unreal 4.12. I'm not too sure. It might have been implemented a little bit earlier than that. I think it was actually just like a test phase for it. I can't recall right now, but so it is a very nice feature. Try and use it to try and reduce your draw call. So even with this pipe, if we're going to stack up quite a whole bunch of them, it might be best just to merge them together so that they kind of meet up as one actor. Alright, so with that said, we're done with this video. So like it if you liked it, you can dislike it if you didn't like it. Please subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next video.